Welcome. Today I'm going to go through, I've heard a little bit about trouble with this exercise through email, and so I'm going to go ahead and go through that. I believe it's tutorial 4, the quick fixes tutorial. All right, first thing, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to open up Photoshop by clicking on its icon, regular dashboard. I'll click the plus sign to make it big on my screen, because that is, you should be able to see the work that you're doing, right? Not get interrupted. So go ahead and make it as big as you can make it. And to get started with these, with making the panorama, right? I've got a bunch of images and I want to, make it one long image. All right, so we've got Photoshop open, Photoshop 2026. The version I am using is 27.4. Oops. Right, if I click on Photoshop 2026 and then About Photoshop, right here, 27.4 release, your Photoshop should be updated automatically through your Creative Cloud subscription. But if what you're seeing and what I'm showing are not in sync, then maybe check the version of Photoshop that you're using. Now, I want to make a panorama. First thing, I've got the application open, File. I click on File at the top. I come on down and I choose Automate. And then on down from there, Photomerge. This is where I tell it how to merge these images together. I usually just use Auto. You have these other options you can experiment with. I am going to click over here where it says Source Files. What images am I telling Photoshop to use to make this panorama? So I'll click Use and I'll choose Folder. I'll click Browse, and I have these images on my desktop right here, Files for Panorama. This is in Blackboard. And what you do is download it from Blackboard to your desktop or wherever you keep your image files, and you select it as part of this exercise. Right. So I have Files for Panorama, the folder Files for Panorama on my desktop. I'll click on it one time. I'll click Open. And it shows me the 4 images that are in that folder, right? Let me get this out of the way. Right here is the Files for Panorama folder on my desktop, and there are 4 pictures in there, Skyline 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in Photoshop, I told it to use that folder. There are the 4 images, and I want it to blend the images together. I want any vignette that's around the edge of the individual images to be removed, where it might get a little darker at the edges of the image. If they're warped in some way, geometric distortion from edge to edge, and when there are transparent areas, do I want to use Content-Aware Fill, which is a generative AI tool to just fill, when it sticks them together, if there are empty areas, it'll just make up whatever's there. So I'll say yes there too. I click OK, and Photoshop starts doing its thing. You can see it building layers over here on the right-hand side. I have a layer that is each of those images individually, and then the merged version of those images. You can see what it's done here, right? There's a mask. It's masked out the other part of that image. Let's run some kind of skew on it, right? It's sort of feathered out here on the edges, things like that. And each of those images has had that done. And then, right, so we have an individually masked and merged images. I'm going to go ahead and click Enable this layer mask. I'm turning that layer mask on and off by holding down the Control key on my keyboard, and see how the cursor changes over there on the right? You click on that, and I can choose Disable Layer Mask, hold down the Control key, click on it, Enable Layer Mask. And then it took those 4 masked layers and merged them together and created this new layer, right? I can turn the eyeball off on all 4 of those. And I still have the masked layer. Complete, right? It's pretty good. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to see those edges if I didn't know they were there. And then, right, it sees all of the, you see all of these empty areas to keep it in this rectangular format. And so it filled those areas in with other stuff. One problem we can see immediately is that this part of the railing here disappears. So to try and fix that, I'm going to click on this merged layer, and I'm going to duplicate it by clicking on the plus button here. Oops, that's new layer. I'm going to click and hold on this skyline1.jpg merged layer. You see it's in my fist now, and I'm going to drag it down to the plus button. Now I have a copy of it. I'll double click that and call it working. And let's see, I want to try to get this railing to come back. I'm not sure if this will work, but I'm going to give it a shot and see what we get. So I'll choose my lasso tool, and I'm just going to circle around it. I'll click generative fill. Gives me this little warning. Click OK. I'm not going to fill in anything. I'll let the computer figure it out. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know what it's going to do. But let's see. I took it out altogether, which I guess I could live with. But right on this side, this has those other, parts of the railing. I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's better gone altogether than halfway there and halfway not. Click Command minus to zoom out just a little bit. Actually, Command 0 to bring it all up on screen. It's all here on the whole thing. You can see it's crooked, right? I'm going to click on View and then Show and, oh, whoops, it's not under Show. Rulers. Rulers is what I want. View, Rulers, right? I'm going to click on View, Rulers. Command R is what I always use, this keyboard shortcut. So I don't really know where a bunch of this stuff is up here under the tool menus. Command R is what I use to show and hide the rulers, because that allows me to drag out lines if I want to. I just click and hold on the ruler and you can drag out guides. These are called guides. You can also choose View, Guides, Lock Guides, Clear Guides. I'll click Clear. And you can also do View, Show, and Grid, and it'll draw this grid over your image if that helps you line things up. But right, I turn that on so we can see like how the horizon here, where the water meets the land, it's crooked. And we can straighten that out with the crop tool. Let's see, I'll click on the crop tool, which is right here, or I can hit the letter C, crop tool. When the crop tool is on, you'll see those crop angles and these handles come up on the edges of the image. The first thing I want to do with the crop tool, though, is straighten it up. So I click on the bubble level here, and I'll go ahead and zoom in so I can see this edge. And what I do after clicking straighten right there, I'm going to click on something in here and just run it along an edge that I want to be straight. Boom, and it snaps right into place. Hide that grid. Now the grid you see here is part of the crop tool. But yeah, it looks straight, right? So I'll click the check mark here. Okay. And so let's see. There's what it was before, and there's after straightening it. Looking pretty good. What else can we do? I'm going to use the crop tool again and just, take it up a little bit so I can kind of hide that missing guardrail there. Something like that, right? Maybe even more. Just above it altogether. All right, I'll take that. So it's looking pretty good. I'll press Command 0 again, or View, Fit on Screen. And now, let's say I just want to fix the colors now. This is more of those basic corrections. I'll click on this adjustment layer here. Click. And I like to use curves. And I like to use auto. So let's see what it thinks. Hey, that looks pretty nice, right? It's got a nice, what's called an S curve here. A little bright for my taste. So I'll move the white point up here. And then the black point I'll kind of move down here. But you want your reflective water to kind of match the tone of the sky. And if I move this down too much, you can see how the water starts to move away from the value the sky has. And so that's really kind of a middle tone, which is why it kind of moves into this kind of center area, right? So yeah, pretty subtle. I'm clicking the eyeball to make it turn on and off. That's nice. And then let's see, what do we have? I see a little like booger up here in the corner. So let's zoom in. I'll click on the zoom tool. It's not a booger at all, it's an airplane. Okay, we'll leave that. Command 0 to bring it all back on screen. We can make the colors pop a little more. All right, I'll click on the adjustment layers again. See, the tooltip here says create a new fill or adjustment layer. You can click there, right, and get this menu and choose from. Or under layer, new adjustment layer, it's the same thing, right? Actually, they're split apart up here under the tool menus at the top. Right, fill layers and adjustment layers are both under this black and white cookie down here. But layer, new adjustment layer, let's try color and vibrance. Cool, okay. And now I can come in here and make the colors in the image more vibrant, like make the blue that much bluer. Saturate the image more. Vibrance and saturation are related. As I understand it, vibrance increases the, color density within the range already in the image. Saturation just jacks everything up without, limit. Generally use vibrance for humans. It makes skin look nice. And everything else, go by feeling. That looks nice, right? Gave it a little life to its color, life to its color, a little vividness. So if you come down here, right, remember this is the one, skyline1.jpg merge. That's the one the original batch process gave to us. I'm going to hold down the Option key. So this is where we started. I held down the Option key and clicked on the eyeball to make that the only visible layer. Then I'll click it again, holding down the Option key. And you can see how all these changes we've made have done something different to the image. Oh, the generative fill layer is cropped out now, right? This is where I removed the half visible walkway railing. It's looking pretty nice. Right now, I'll look at this. I want to show you image size. When I click on image and image size, this window comes up. It's telling me the dimensions of the image are 2,383 pixels wide by 673 pixels high, which it says is 13.24 inches by 3.75 inches at 180 pixels per inch. That's not a high resolution. If you want to, make a print and hang it on your wall, 300 is the proper resolution for a wall size picture, something you're going to print out and hang on your wall. You could probably get by with about 240. But you see what's happening is that the size of the image isn't changing when I just change the resolution. It's resampling the image. Okay, there, maybe that's it. It's resampling the image, and so the resolution isn't necessarily getting better or more. It's recalculating based on this size. We can choose resample, and then you see that it conforms the physical size of the image with the resolution. So we're not resampling here. We're using the data already existing. So I can get a 3 by 10 image from this. let's go ahead and do that. But you know, it's a panorama, right? 3 by 10 isn't great for a panorama size image. And Photoshop has a new tool integrated into it called generative upscale. It's under image generative upscale. And when you click on that, so it uses AI to make your image bigger, right? And retain its resolution. You click on that and you get this option. From the model, Firefly Upscaler is the one that's built into, it's Adobe's AI. Topaz is another service you can use. We'll use the Firefly one. And you can make it twice the size or 4 times the size. We're going to go with twice because 4 is really big. And it's telling us here what the finished size will be. And this image here would be something like, right, if I'm doing 300 pixels in my head, 300 pixels per inch is a good print resolution. 4800 divided by 300 is, what, like 16 inches? Yeah, 16 inches by 5? 5 by 16 inches. So I'll click on upscale. Uh-oh. I guess it's not going to do it. Here, let's try this. I clicked to select one layer, and I held down the Shift key, and I selected all of these layers. I'm going to control click and choose flatten image. I flattened the image. Because I've done that, I'm going to try this image generative upscale again. Firefly Upscaler, upscale. Yeah, so after I merged the image, then it was ready to upscale everything. And maybe that's written down in documentation somewhere that you have to flatten your image before you generative upscale, which makes sense, right? Otherwise, it would have had to do the same process 6 different times for each layer. So I press Command 0 again, Command 0. All right, so I made it bigger, made a panorama. I'll go ahead and save this. File, save as. Yes, this is true. And I'll just say Parker Panorama. Format, I'll choose PDF in this case. I don't need to do anything else in Photoshop with this. I'll save it on my desktop. Save. OK. I don't need to preserve Photoshop editing capabilities. I will click Save PDF. There you go. To close I click the X on the tab here to close this window. I'll click on Don't Save. I don't need to save this image. Close it, don't save. Real quick, I'll go off before I sign off and just show you real quick again how it started. File. I've got Photoshop open. I'll choose File, Automate, Photomerge. I'll leave it on auto. I'm going to use a folder. I'll browse. Right here, Files for Panorama. Click Open. Those are the 4 images in there. I'll click on Vignette Removal, Geometric Distortion Correction, and Content Aware Fill Transparent Areas. Click OK. Photoshop does its thing. There it is. I choose View and Fit on Screen, and then deselect right here. And there we go. There it is again. I'll click on Crop, Straighten, click and drag along a line I want to be straight in the image, 0 degrees. Looks good. You know, here's something fun. If I want to, I can drag out this crop box to encompass all of the, transparent area, all the checkerboard here. Then I can come up to the top right here in the crop tool, and it says delete crop pixels is checked, and what does it fill with, right? Transparent is the default. That's what it'll do if you don't tell it to do something else. I'm going to choose Generative Expand and see what happens. I'll click on check, doing its thing. There it is. Pretty cool, right? Before, after, and that's that, right? From this, I can, I can do all the other color corrections and all that kind of stuff. Fix this. That's kind of obvious. Screw up there. whatever's going on down here looks suspicious. But I'll call it done. I assembled 4 images into a panorama, file. This time I'll choose export, export as, JPEG, full size, 2624 by 930 pixels. I'll click export. Okay. Right here, I'll put my last name on it, and I click export. It's on my desktop. Right there it is. Here are both of the panoramas I just created. Can submit those in Blackboard, and we are good to go. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. Thanks for paying attention. I'll cut this and post it up later. Your questions are welcome. Send them to me, and I'll try to get them answered. Thank you.